What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Masculinity Made podcast. I am super excited for this episode. Today, we are here with one of our coaches at Masculinity Made, Coach Taya. I'm going to give it away to her to give a little introduction of herself, and we will dive into her story.
Nice. What's up, guys? I'm Taya. I'm one of the coaches here at Masculinity Made. My pronouns are she, her. I'm 21 years old, 22 tomorrow, actually. So I got the
Awesome.
same birthday as another coach on the team as well. And yeah, I'm
Awesome.
excited to get into things.
Sweet. Well, I'm super excited to dive into this one as well. Like I say quite frequently, I personally like filming these podcasts a lot because it helps me learn a lot about you guys as well, which I think is awesome. So I'm super excited to dive into this. I think Taya is one of the probably most disciplined people I've met when it comes to fitness. So I think that this is definitely going to be a really cool episode. Taya, I'd love for you to kind of kick it off just in terms of, your fitness journey. How and when did it start? Did you kind of grow up
Mhm.
around fitness? Like, what was you coming into your, fitness journey looking like?
Yeah, well, I've always kind of grown up in quite an active household. I've always been one of those people that I've been naturally strong as a kid. I've always been, I'm sure a lot of people can relate, like one of the boys, always hanging out with the boys, always strong like the boys, always play fighting. I was playing football as well, or soccer, as I know a lot of you guys would call it.
Mhm.
And that's what was my thing growing up, soccer, and then also breakdancing. So that involves like a lot of handstands and headstands and head spins, and
Mhm.
it's like a dance form, but then it also requires a lot of upper body strength as well. So I did that consistently growing up, breakdancing until I was about 12, 13. And then I did soccer until I was about 16. And then I even was going to go to the US on a soccer scholarship, but then COVID hit. And during COVID, around that time as well, I started figuring out my sexuality around that time. And obviously, we were all cooped in. Football had stopped, everything had stopped. And I kind of just got into a pretty dark place. I didn't really know who I was or what my next steps were because it kind of fell apart. And that was my career trajectory.
Mhm.
I needed a new outlet because I've always found fitness, whether it's through dance, just moving your body and being active, to be a great mental outlet. So not just physical. So after COVID, I joined the gym with my mom actually, because she's always been active, and we did a lot of classes in the gym because, like everyone else, I didn't know what I was doing in the gym at all. So I
Yeah.
found it easier just to go to classes. And then when I did get into the gym, I'd try on the machines and stuff like that, and then I'd do my own research at home and figure out about protein, about this, about that, all the things that it takes to start to build a certain physique. And then I implemented it myself, and then the results came really fast. And then as soon as the results come, like anything that I'm sure you guys have experienced where you're good at something, you pick it up really quick and it's addictive.
Yeah.
And it's almost something that I say to clients as well. Like once you get into your flow state with the routine and the results start coming and you start feeling better, it becomes less of a pressure thing. It's like you want it, you know? It's like I'm gonna have to tell you to take a rest day.
Yeah.
That type of
Totally.
vibe. So that's kind of how it all started, really.
Yeah, awesome stuff. That's super cool. I think it's definitely an interesting, starting point with like starting in terms of breakdancing. And I know that a lot of the stuff you do now is bodybuilding as well as some calisthenics work as well. So I'm kind of interested to know what in specific got you to do breakdancing. Is that like a big thing in the UK or what, like, did it kind of like, how did that happen?
No. It's very niche, and in the UK as well, even football, like especially at the time, it's a lot bigger now, but
Mhm.
it's known as a male sport. So like you're not gonna see like a 7 year old, like I saw it when I was four as well, like a 4 year
Wow.
old girl breakdancing. That's It's so niche. But my mom was a dancer and a choreographer,
Okay.
so I did it through her. Like most things that you do when you're young, your parents put you into it,
Yeah.
and then I really enjoyed it and enjoyed
Awesome.
the movement and the freedom of it, so I caught on quick.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's super cool. I love how typically parents, make their kids do soccer or football, but yours, it was breakdancing. I think that's a
Breakdancing.
cool path as
Yeah.
well, which is super awesome. So, based on what you were talking about as well, I definitely feel you when we were kind of cooped up during COVID. That's where stuff really started to pick up in my fitness journey as well. I feel like productive and driven people were literally going crazy during that time. So, I
Mhm.
definitely understand that. You mentioned kind of like at a point, you started seeing pretty good results with your training after doing some research, and you also started, also getting into that more flow state with your routine. I know that that's a huge struggle for a lot of people starting out is getting to that point. How long did
Yeah.
it take you to start seeing those results and feeling good and consistent in your routine? Like, what did you kind of do to get to that point?
I think it's just having the knowledge and implementing it and like not just half-assing what I do. I've done that in life in anywhere. Like
Mhm.
even with the I just graduated like yesterday. The
Mhm.
degree that I got, like I got a first class degree because I really
Oh yeah.
committed to it. Because I'm like, even if I'm not fully invested in the subject that I'm doing, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna put my all into it. And
Mhm.
that's the mindset that I had with fitness. So at first I was just going for fun, like with my mom. And then I was like, no, I really want to I'm quite naturally good at this. Like, I'm gonna look into it. And then I found out exactly what to do and I didn't miss a beat. And that's why with me, I transformed in like 10 weeks. It was a really crazy transformation because I
Wow.
went from being like a little bit overweight, like I couldn't do a pull-up, I couldn't do certain things. I was naturally like I had some level of strength because of my background.
Mhm.
But yeah, 10 weeks, people would ask me, am I doing a show or something?
That's
Because like I
insane.
got the information, protein, calorie deficit, training intensity. And those are the main three things that you just have to have, even if your form's not perfect yet, and even if your program's not specific, especially as a beginner. And like it just happens really quick. And I think for the people at home, like you can take that away because if you really dial in on just the three things, like you will see results. Like it's just a fact, and use that as motivation. Like I don't even need to have the perfect split, the perfect this, the perfect that, the
Yeah.
perfect training times, this and that. Just intensity, the protein, and the deficit, and that's what you need.
Totally. I love that mindset because I feel like with social media, yes, we get to learn so much so quickly, but there is also so much information out there. And when you think about it, fitness is honestly so damn simple. Like you said, breaking it down into those key pillars is huge. And I think that not a lot of people are able to do what you mentioned in 10 weeks, just go from 0 to 100 in terms of consistency and sustainability. So I think that that's definitely super cool that when you're like driven and feel like you have a knack for something, you're going to go all into that and see, how far you can take it. And I mean, I think that that's a super cool approach to it as well in terms of, really diving into fitness. So in your journey, there was no like on off sort of fitness journey. It was kind of like, I like this feels good. I'm going to fucking do it. And it was kind of, history from there.
Yeah, but I think that it also helped in a way that it gave me confidence to like learn more about it quick because I
Mhm.
got to a certain level really insanely fast with both calisthenics because of my background. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even tailored to calisthenics. I'm quite like heavier set naturally. Like I had
Yeah.
to diet down when I got like really, really good at it.
Mhm.
And I have quite long arms, so if I'm doing like muscle ups and pull ups, I've got longer reach
Mhm.
to go over the bar. Like I said, I've got big legs. So
Mhm.
I'm carrying a lot of weight over there when I'm doing all these certain moves.
Yeah.
However, I developed quickly in it because of my background with
Okay.
calisthenics. So on
Mhm.
both sides, I like shot up really fast. But that means most of my lifting journey have been like really fine-tuning certain things with volume and stuff like that and kind of digging deeper into it because as you said, the basics are pretty common knowledge. So it gives you a lot more like value as a coach if you know like a little bit outside of that.
Totally.
You know? It-
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
rather it taking like 2 years. Oh, I've been training for 2 years, and then like all you know is the basics because it took you that long to
Yeah.
dial that in.
Totally,
So
totally. And do you feel that learning through those experiences and your drive to kind of just grow and learn gave you like a lot of value as a coach when you're like teaching clients? Do you feel that that was like huge for you?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like you have to, I feel like if you've done it, you know. And
Yeah.
it's so key with body weight movements because if someone hasn't done a handstand and like they can't hold it like really easily, it's like it's so much harder to teach
Yeah.
because those little fine-tuned teaching points and cues and stuff like that that I just naturally know because I've been on my hands since I was 4 means that I'm gonna naturally be a bit better when it comes to teaching it than someone that's, you know what I mean, only learnt it recently or it took them longer to get there.
Totally.
Yeah, so certain cues and stuff I gained from learning really fast.
Yeah, totally, totally. Awesome. Well, I think your fitness journey is definitely unique in that way, like a transformation in 10 weeks. I'm definitely going to need to see some pictures of that. I want to see the before and after there, but kind of redirecting, based on where we're at here, I would love to kind of get a good idea. So, in terms of your fitness journey, I also kind of want to talk a little bit and learn a little bit about when you kind of first became aware of your identity and your sexuality. I know you mentioned it was a little bit during COVID quarantine. I'd love you to kind of walk me
Mhm.
through that, like what that experience was like, if any challenges came up.
No, definitely. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that everyone else around you knows. I'm sure like a lot of
Yeah.
people can relate, but you don't know yourself. So it's
Mhm.
like, oh, like you always dress like a boy, like pick the boy characters, like wanted
Mhm.
to be one of the boys. Like
Mhm.
I remember in primary school, because I played football and stuff, and my group of friends were boys. They were like, oh, like we should have a sleepover and stuff. And I'm like in the group, and they're like, oh, but Taya can't come because she's a girl.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I think it was always a bit there, but I think I wasn't focused on my sexuality because I just was more focused on hobbies and having fun
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That I was privileged enough to not have to notice it.
Yeah.
And I think because I always excelled physically, and oh, like I can break dance, I can do this. I had that shield from me that prevented me from like being picked on because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like you're strong and you're smart. So
Yeah.
even if you have something that we could pick on you, you're not going to get picked on. And then when that kind of fell off during COVID, I just realized how isolated I was. And it was just really confusing for me to try and figure out kind of who I was because
Yeah.
you start to realize how you're perceived by others
Yeah.
when you hit
Mhm.
a certain age, like in your teens and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
romance does start to come into the occasion
Yeah.
and things like this. And I think that's why I am drawn to fitness so much because
Yeah.
that kind of gave me an outlet, both in how I feel internally, in how I want to be perceived, because
Mhm.
it controls like your physical appearance to some sense of degree, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I definitely feel that in a way when you're talking about like, all of your friends being boys. I was definitely like, I remember I was the only girl at the time like that wanted to try out for the baseball team and things along those lines. And it's interesting, like you mentioned, being like very hobby driven and success driven, that it's kind of just not at the forefront of your mind. It's something that's kind of just tossed to the side. So I'm curious to know if this was something that you were aware of. Like, were you aware of sexuality growing up, or was this something that you learned through online?
No,
Like, when
I
did you
was
start getting
pretty
aware?
oblivious to it until a certain age, but I'd always been like, I think I'm just quite headstrong. Like, I don't let things get to
Mhm.
me. So, because I always play football, like, everyone would always ask me, are you a girl or a boy? Are you a girl or a boy?
Yeah.
Like, I would like take my shirt off until obviously, like, developed and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So, I was just not thinking on that level because I'd always received it. Or
Hmm.
like your parents saying like, oh, you can't do this because you're a girl, or like forcing me to wear a dress, and I'd be like
Hmm.
crying about the fact that I've got to wear a dress, which is
Yeah.
annoying. Or oh, I've got to, yeah, be with the girls instead of the boys. And then
Hmm.
I went to a girls' school, which was
Okay.
frustrating for me because, as I said, in England, football isn't common for girls to do, so it was kind of put on the back burner now. So
Hmm.
my friends were all boys in primary school, and now I've had to go to a girls' secondary school, which for you would be like high school, middle school
Okay. Hmm.
type vibe.
Yeah.
And then they'd like come to me and be like, "Are you a girl or a boy?" But like I'm at a girls' school,
Yeah.
so I'm just like, "What?" And they'd be like, "Oh, do you want to be a boy?" And I think like I just was very frustrated at a certain point from before not caring about it to then being frustrated because I was just like, "What do I have to do like
Yeah.
to not be like called a boy?" And then I said when I got to like 16-ish, then I realized that like everyone like thought I was a boy or thought I was gay or thought this and that. And
Hmm.
then you almost like don't want to say that you are because then you're just giving
Yes.
in to everything that everyone's been labeling you as
Totally.
your whole life, you know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely feel that. I have like this vivid memory when I was in middle school, like you were saying, where this same girl, I think she was like openly gay, and she would come up to me every single day during gym class, asking me if I was gay and asking when I was going to come out as gay and all this stuff. And I definitely had that feeling like almost like built up, like maybe it was internalized homophobia at a point, or more so just not wanting to prove people wrong in a way. But when people are like building those assumptions on such a scary thing, it can definitely make it a lot more challenging. And I think you come at an interesting perspective comparative to myself, because I grew up in the skate park scene, and there was a lot of like, hey, are you a boy or a girl? All throughout when I identified as a lesbian to non-binary, to so on and so forth. But I feel like my perspective is different than yours in that way. How did you kind of handle, gender versus sexuality and being confident in your identity and sexuality? I'm sure that was like hard or a struggle for you. Walk me through what that was like.
It was a big struggle. Like it was very confusing because it's one of the things that when people ask, you start questioning yourself, like, do I want to be a boy?
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and as to some sense, you feel like you kind of do. So
Mhm.
it's almost more weird. And the reason why you feel so defensive about it and you have your guard up so much, or at least that's why I feel I did, is because you don't want to be different
Yeah.
again. Like, I'm already so different. So
Yeah.
now if I, do you know what I mean? I'm gay, I'm even more different.
Yeah.
And I just want to be like everyone else, you know? I don't want to be the odd one out again
Mhm.
and again and
Yeah.
again.
Hmm.
And that's the story of my life. Like, I'm just never fit in anywhere, it just feels like.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somewhere to just fit in and that sense of community and that validation that we
Yeah.
naturally want from our peers. And
Yeah.
when they're asking you, it's almost like they're doing it in like a pointed way. They're
Mhm.
not saying it like, "Oh, are you gay?" Like, "Oh my God." They're saying like, "Are you gay?" Like,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
expect me to say? Even if I was, I'm not exactly gonna want to say it now. You're saying it like that.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, so
100%.
it was definitely very difficult with the gender and sexuality because the lines are quite blurred when you're
Yeah.
trying to figure it out for yourself.
Totally.
However, I don't know, I just realized that even if, because we're all so different and we can all identify as what we want, that even
Mhm.
if I do, prefer to be seen pretty masculine and I
Mhm.
like certain things that, fit into certain gender roles and stuff, it's all just society at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
it didn't go far enough for me when I got to a certain age to be like, okay, I'd want to completely change my
Mhm.
identity. It's
Yeah.
just that I can still identify as female and have all these masculine traits and want to
100%.
flatten my chest down. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Totally.
Even if people keep pressuring me and are like, oh, you may as well just be a boy then.
Yeah. I think that that's such a huge thing that masculinity does not have to fit into a box of being a man or being a woman and vice versa. And it is when you really break it down, it's kind of terrifying in a way that it is all like made up by society in that way to like fit into these certain boxes. So I definitely feel you when it comes to that. So we're kind of walking through, these struggles internally that are coming up. At what
Mhm.
point did you kind of come out and what was that experience? Was it pretty smooth? Was it gradual? Like what was the experience when you did kind of come to terms within yourself and, did that openly and socially?
Yeah, I think I was lucky enough that because I've always been quite masculine, like I was never more feminine, and then I had like a switch. So I
Hmm.
think everyone already assumed anyway. So when I did come out, it was like, oh, you're just confirming what we already think. The
Hmm.
struggle was within me,
Yeah.
accepting it within myself and being
Hmm.
like, okay, this is who you are and it's fine and it's okay.
Hmm.
Whereas everyone else was just kind of okay with it. Like they're just like, oh, we knew or we don't care. Especially because we are a bit younger and stuff now, so it's a bit more accepted and common
Totally.
than in previous times.
Yeah,
But yeah.
for sure. For sure. And were you surrounded by many like queer mask presenting people growing up or no?
No, I don't like that's why when I met you guys in person, it was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, Even though I said I was a bit nervous because I knew that I was gonna be an other again in a way, and not like, anyone would be mean or anything, but it's
Mhm.
just you're always a bit nervous in spaces
Of
where,
course.
you're the only one that's not American. There's just a lot of
Mhm.
differences.
Yeah.
However, yeah, I don't have any gay friends or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never have done, and that's what made it a bit awkward
Hmm.
because the girls' school that I went to, it was a grammar school. I don't think you have them there, but they're like for people that they either have to do a test to get in because you have to be
Okay.
smart enough, or their parents pay for them to go.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so when I went to that school, it was like I'm going to an all-girls school of these like posh girls that either are rich and I'm definitely not, or,
Yeah.
so there's that type of vibe.
Hmm.
So everyone that I met there up until I was like 16, yeah, there weren't many gay people at all. Like it wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so in person and socially, that not being so prominent in your life, was this something that was kind of coming up online for you, or was this solely like you versus you in the moment? Like, did you have any resources? Like, was like online? Because I know that was a huge thing for me, was like learning about queerness and transness through like the internet as well. Like, was that applicable in your case as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like that's why I wasn't aware of it growing up, even if I'd always been
Mhm.
called a boy, because I hadn't heard of like, trans and this and that. Like I was
Yeah,
just unaware. So
yeah.
you just think, oh, this is just my life.
Mhm.
And then the internet and that is so profound. And that's
Mhm.
kind of where I started to figure myself during COVID, because that's when I feel like we all became like chronically online. We
Yeah,
had nothing to
yeah,
do.
totally.
And that's when you see a lot of representation, and that's why representation is so, so important to me because I
Yeah,
could finally see myself in other people and feel like, oh, I'm not alone, and it gave me confidence in myself. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one that feels this way and feels like
yeah,
that because depending on where you're brought up, like you literally just feel like it's just you versus everyone.
yeah. Totally, totally. I definitely agree. I remember when I first saw like trans and queer representation online, at the time, just thought I was like an ally, a very big ally at that, and I was fascinated by it. I now understand that we are just simply craving that community as well. So I think that that's a really cool, perspective in terms of like, even if we don't really have this stuff in real life now in this day and age, having the internet can be a blessing and a curse in some ways as well. So with that as well, Tay, I kind of wanted to root back into fitness in terms of, you kind of mentioning this feeling of like self-isolation, always being different. Were there any barriers or moments of exclusion in the fitness world for you when it came to the start to building a career? I know you were an in-person trainer for a while. Did you
Mhm.
experience any, exclusion, or talk to me about that if it's applicable?
I think sometimes you feel like you stand out in the gym because it's so like hyper masculine and things like
Mhm.
that. So I think definitely maybe when I first started, you feel like you have to kind of prove yourself a bit more.
Yeah.
And there's not many role models that I saw in the gym and stuff for me to look up to and things. So
Mhm.
it kind of didn't feel like a safe space.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just a place with loads of men. And
Mhm.
as a young queer female, you don't feel that comfortable.
Mhm.
But I think when you start to excel in it, like I did pretty quickly, then it almost becomes like, your differences are what make you who you are.
Yeah.
And that's always the way in life. Like you have something that people will say is weird, and then if you're good at it, then it's like, oh,
Mhm.
or whatever. So that was kind of the
Totally.
case with me.
Yeah.
And that's why I do definitely relate to a lot of clients and things like that that say that they don't really feel safe in the gym or comfortable because yeah, like there are always going to be people there that are staring at you and they
Mhm.
notice you like a lot because you do naturally stand out.
Mhm. Totally, totally. I think that like gym anxiety is like a huge thing for queer individuals as well, when it comes down to just like being in a space of people stereotypically speaking, like those macho gym bros that maybe might not have your best interest in heart can be, definitely scary. So in terms of that, it just seems like, since you picked up that momentum so quickly, I definitely understand what you're saying. They think you're weird until you're doing it better than them, sort of thing. So I definitely get where you're coming from there as
And with
well.
gym wear, like shout out to the clothing brand, everyone support. But yeah, like Young LA, Gymshark, whoever, it's literally just like the hugest man you can find. Like it's so, and
Yeah,
then the feminine is like booty shorts, etc. So you just feel like I don't fit in either of these. So if you
yeah,
want to like go into the gym as a social thing, you literally don't fit in. And then
yeah,
if you don't have a certain physique for the masculine clothes, you can't wear them.
yeah,
You
totally.
just like you're gonna stand out because it's like, why are you wearing that? Like, you're not big enough to wear the masculine clothes, but
Yeah.
you're not gonna wear the feminine clothes. So it's really not like an inclusive space at first until you
Yeah.
kind of find your community in the gym.
Yeah, it feels like the gym, whether it's intentional or unintentional, tries to make you fit into one side of the pillar. Like you go on Young LA's website and it's Young LA for her, like you said, with those booty shorts, and Young LA
Yeah.
for him. And we've talked to some of our coaches that don't even fit into the men's clothes in Young LA because they're too big, things along those lines. Even professional bodybuilders, certified personal trainers, that are queer, being able to just, I think that kind of very strict line in the sand has definitely made it a struggle for queer people to, not only get into the gym, because getting into the gym in itself is difficult for anyone.
Mhm.
It is a challenge, but let alone there's kind of another layer added when it comes to kind of finding your people as well. So, Tate,
Mhm.
how did you kind of find your people, in person in the gym and, in that safe space? I know you mentioned you kind of started going with your mom. Did you eventually end up like finding a community that made you feel, safe and supported?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why people jump around gyms a little bit to find a
Yeah.
gym that they kind of like the atmosphere and the vibe of and people are
Mhm.
friendly. But I do feel like it's the responsibility like of the gym owners and like if it's more commercial, the people that work there to talk to people that they see are quite new or struggling on equipment. And
Yeah.
then even if you're at Planet Fitness, the employee might just be super nice and helpful and you're like, oh, and you
Yeah.
start to get more comfortable. Because it's
Totally.
really hard. Like I had my mom luckily to help me in the gym, but I didn't get there on my own.
Yeah.
And the few times I did go on my own before COVID, like just randomly when it first started, just to go in the row machine, like
Yeah.
walk on the treadmill, it is that thing where you're like scared of the weight section because the weights are heavy, they're dangerous, and you just have no clue. So
Yeah.
you need some type of support. And I think it's just building the confidence really to reach out because I
Totally.
know, as we've said, like there are a lot of hypermasculine people there, and there are people that, might not make you feel the most comfortable, but a lot of times it is in our heads. And when you do reach out to people in the gym and just ask for help or something, people will help you. Sometimes the strongest people in the gym are the friendliest, because we've
Totally.
all been there. Like if
Yeah.
anyone asks me anything in the gym, I'll be the first one to help. But I've
Yeah.
had so many people say like, "Oh, I was intimidated" or whatever, because when you're in the gym, you're like locked in and
Yeah.
you can seem like super serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everyone's like, most people are pretty friendly. Like if you're nice to people, most of the time they're gonna be nice to you back.
Totally.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I found my community, just
I
by
love it.
having a little bit more confidence to reach out and then
Yeah.
finding a gym where you feel a little bit comfortable.
Agreed. Agreed. I think that, personally, I started my journey. I didn't really have anyone in my life that was actively going to the gym. So I
Mhm.
started literally in my bedroom with a yoga mat. And I think I always suggest that starting out at home, building your confidence with yourself, the movement of your body,
Mhm.
and just like with no one else surrounding you and no idea of perception is always super,
Mhm.
super helpful. But I love the idea of making it normalized to ask for that help. I think whether it's asking for help or asking someone if they want to, you want to work in with them or they want to catch a lift next weekend or anything along those lines, putting your best foot forward, whether it's for someone that's new in the gym or you're the new person in the gym, trying to make those connections will allow the
Mhm.
gym to kind of become that safer space as well. So I think that that's definitely kind of in terms of starting one of the biggest struggles for queer individuals. So I kind of wanted to, talk about as your identity, as a masculine presenting woman, how has fitness allowed you to feel more confident in that? Like, do you utilize fitness as in terms of aesthetics to feel more affirmed in this identity? Is it more of a powerful thing? Like, how does fitness kind of connect the dots in your identity and sexuality if it does?
It definitely it's everything to me, fitness, because as
Mhm.
I said, I've done it since birth.
Yeah.
I've always liked to be strong and it's just who I am. And that's why it's such a big part of my identity. However, it definitely links in terms of my gender expression and sexuality because I see it like similar to fashion, if you want to
Yeah.
explain it to everyone at home that's watching, it's like you dress how you just want to express yourself.
Mhm.
So the vision that I have of myself, the physique, the aesthetics that I'm building, it's not like, oh, I have to get to this, otherwise, like, I'm gonna hate myself or whatever. However, it's just the way that I'd like to express myself to society. So building that is, of course, going to give me more confidence, just like
Totally.
wearing the clothes that you feel comfortable in is, having the
Mhm.
hairstyle that you like is. So that aesthetic definitely adds to that.
Totally, totally. I love the comparison, making it as normalized as the clothes that you wear and the way you express yourself with fashion. I think that that's a super cool comparison when it comes down to being able to, in a way, as silly as it might sound, like build your own custom avatar to fit the way that you want
Yeah.
to, identify as. And I think that, I love the idea of we're not doing this out of a place of self-hatred. We're doing it out of a place of self-love, building up that confidence. And I think part of building that confidence is loving yourself throughout the process, not waiting for that end ideal goal to start that. So it seems like from what you told me, you mentioned you're always a pretty headstrong person. Was confidence something that came pretty naturally to you growing up, or was that something that you had to build? Are you still building? Like, where are you at in terms of your journey to confidence?
No, yeah, I definitely had to build confidence. I think I've always like fitness has been my confidence to some level.
Mhm.
Because anytime I'd make friends or something, it was through that, like the
Yeah.
clubs that they put you in. But as soon
Mhm.
as I had to kind of make my own mark socially and I didn't have that sports club that you go to and then excel in
Mhm.
and then you meet people at football or whatever, I realized that like that's what happened over COVID. I'm like, what do I have?
Yeah.
I've got like nothing. Like I don't know who I am.
Mhm.
And I was so within myself. Like I didn't speak to anyone.
Mhm.
And because I took a gap year and everyone went away to university and stuff like that, I had like no friends, no anything.
Mhm.
So I had to start off fresh. And when you're meeting friends and you're not in an environment where you just naturally meet people,
Yeah.
you always have to like intrude other people's social spaces and put yourself out there to make friends. And
Mhm.
that can be so scary and intimidating when you don't have any love for yourself or care for yourself because you don't
Mhm.
know who you are and you don't
Totally.
like who you are. And I
100%.
didn't at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you feel like so many negative emotions towards yourself and you don't really know why.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It can be a struggle, especially with isolation, when it's kind of your thoughts versus your thoughts. It can be extremely challenging. And I think that, like, when it comes down to building confidence, I don't think it's something that will ever have a finish line. I think it will be something that, everyone, including, queer, trans, cis, hetero individuals, building confidence is something that I feel like everybody aims for. I feel like for, trans and queer individuals, people aim for comfort at first, just feeling comfortable in themselves, but I feel like everyone needs to deserves to step into that confidence as well. So I feel like that positive self-talk, in terms of your conditions and where you're at is definitely a really big thing that can help us move through that, whether it's finding people that can help you do that, making sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, or being your own biggest motivator. I know you're a very big advocate on that as well, which kind of cycles me into the next question I kind of wanted to ask you here would be in terms of like your discipline, like I said, you are arguably one of the most disciplined people I know. So I would love to kind of hear, based on your fitness story, it seems like this was kind of something that you just always did. You always put your best foot forward, were really headstrong with everything you did. When it comes down to discipline, do you feel that you just have consistent motivation when your motivation drops? Like, how do you pick up the discipline? Like, what's the why behind that? What
Yeah.
keeps you going?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a myth. Like ask
Yeah.
anyone, the most disciplined person you know, like they're not in their head anyways. We all face the same mental battles, whether it's the CEO, the Jeff Bezos, whatever, the people with the morning routine, like they
Yeah.
don't get up every day and they're so excited to do that. No matter how they portray it, that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's just a case of almost getting like addicted to progress is a good way to put it, and
Hmm.
also habits. Like habits is the foundation of life. It's not, I'm not doing this because I want to, I'm doing it because it's an instinct, because it's my habit. And
Yeah.
just like you can create bad habits and you just feel stuck in that cycle of like, why did I keep going to bed late and going on my phone before bed when I
Hmm.
know I shouldn't do it?
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? It's the
Yeah.
habit. You just get out your phone and then you're doing it before you even realize it. And those
Hmm.
same bad habits that you can create good habits. So now I'm at the gym, even if I don't even know how I got here. I just ended up at the gym because
Yep.
I'm like a robot in that mode. And to build those healthy habits and those disciplined habits, you have to really push through. And as I said, think of your future self, think of who you want to be, and think of all the negative emotions that you feel when you go and cycle back into your bad habits. That's what
Hmm.
I try and think of in my head. And then after you've done it for a certain period of time, they say like around about 3 weeks
Yep.
takes to build a habit,
Hmm.
then it's a natural habit. So you don't have to think about it anymore. And that effort that it requires at first to like really try and go in the gym and stuff, like it, I promise you, it won't last.
Yeah.
Just
Totally.
push through that first few times. I'm sure it was like you with the running.
Hmm.
Like Grayson's doing a challenge where like he runs every like those first few days, like "Oh, okay." But then
Yeah.
once you get into it, it's just like, okay, I'm just doing it now. Like I'm gonna go
Totally.
for my run.
100%. I think
Yeah.
that that's super cool. I completely agree. Is like, I think it takes, like you said, 21 days or something like that to build a habit, 3 weeks. And that first 3 weeks, I feel like is what so many people fall into that stop, go, stop, go. They go for a week, they're off for a few days. They go for 2 weeks, they're off for a few days. And it's hard to really push through that first half, realizing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel there. And I feel like it's super cool when it comes down to your motivation and your why being the actual addiction to progress. You find that the most successful people, regardless of what it is, are addicted to that progress. So I think that that's
Mhm.
a great way to frame it. Being addicted to improvement, self-improvement, motivated by the progress, whether it's physical, mental, both, I think is such
Yeah.
a great motivation. And I know that you mention all the time, you being your biggest motivator. Do you feel,
Yeah.
that is rooted in growing up kind of being the only one doing what you were doing and kind of being the only one with yourself, in terms of this identity that maybe not a lot of queer people were around you growing up and you were kind of the only one in the gym or doing the breakdancing or anything along those lines? Do you feel that that had something to do with kind of your why being rooted solely in yourself?
Yeah, I think it definitely is to do with not having like growing up around loads of queer people and growing up around like loads of friends that are super supportive and that are helping me all the time. Like I did have to do a lot of it myself.
Hmm.
I had my mum for a bit, but then she slacked off. I had to carry on. And I just found in my life, like anytime I try and like, like I said, go to the gym with someone else, I'm relying on them to help me get into the gym. Or I'm relying on the PT that I've paid, or anyone that I know that does that, it never lasts. Like it
Yeah.
has to come from you. You can have
Yeah.
your coach talking to you about it, but you can even pay like loads of money for it, like even being blunt, and you just don't do it
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
it has to come from within. Like anything that's not from within will not last in my experience and what I've seen from others.
Yeah.
And whether you've had a friend or someone, when you're talking to them and you can just tell that they're just doing it because their mom told them to, or because of that. And then sometimes you can tell that they're doing it because they want it, really obsessed with it. And for something like a fitness journey, like you really need that for anything in life that you do. And the key is though to start small. Like it sounds like a big challenge at the start because it is. You have
Hmm.
to be really realistic. And for me, the reason why I progressed so quick was because it was realistic because I was young enough that I didn't have kids. I didn't have some loads of responsibilities to distract me. I was naturally strong and good at it as well. So it was, of course, I could transform really quick. Not everyone
Yeah.
has that, and we
Yeah.
have to be real. So if you
Yes.
know you're someone that's super busy, that, is easily disheartened by certain things, maybe you're not na a natural at the gym, it's gonna take you longer, and that's okay because we're all on our own journeys. The avatar that you're looking to build in the future, it's still gonna be you. Like, yes, we're trying to customize it, but it's always gonna be you at your core. So
Hmm.
everything that you build is yours, and it's a positive because you don't want to be anyone else. You want to be yourself because that's
Yeah.
what makes you different and unique, and that's all you've got. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, that makes so much sense, and I think that that can connect a lot of dots for people when it comes to why is my training program not working? Why am I struggling to see results? I think that people skip such an important step, and that is the why. Why are we here, and why do I want this? And that's the first thing that I dive into, whether it's something with business, whether it's something with myself. And I love mentioning that as well is it's you're always going to have you. Friends will come and go, money will come and go, gyms will come and go, coaches will come and go. You are
Mm,
always gonna have you, especially this body. You have one body and it's yours. And although, like you said, yes, you do get to customize it in a way, the best way to guarantee long-term progress is making sure that you're feeling good about yourself throughout that process as well.
mm,
Doing this in a positive way is definitely a really important thing. So loving your body from the start and learning to love it in the way that it is. And even if it's not necessarily from going from a negative thought pattern to a positive thought pattern, body
mm,
neutrality in itself can be enough. And I think that that is like really huge in terms of motivation, and is realizing maybe the reason, you're not having some crazy 10-week transformation like Taya is because when Taya got into it, she knew exactly who she was doing it for and why. And if you don't have
mm,
that, then maybe that's the reason you're not staying consistent. And that can be, to a lot of things in life outside of fitness. So I think that that's definitely a really, really cool perspective on things as well, which is
mm.
kind of explains why you are where you are now. Yeah.
It's all mindset because we're all different. Like I was saying about like, my long arms, I'm flat-footed as well, so that makes like deadlifting and squatting like a nightmare
Yeah.
because my knees naturally cave in, which is like an injury risk and stuff. So
Yeah.
I have to make sure I'm wearing heel elevated shoes and stuff. I
Hmm.
squat ugly, but I'm not gonna sit and complain. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna make the steps, focus on what I can control, make the steps to try and make it the easiest way for me and act
Hmm.
on it. But if
Yeah.
you just, you know what I mean, say like, oh, I've got this to do and stuff like that, and you keep making excuses or saying certain things, then you're never going to get far because you're not having the right mentality in the first place because we all are different and unique, and that's
Totally.
take it as your joy, like, okay, I'm gonna have to work harder to get this, but that's going to make it just like way more satisfying when I get there in the end. That's the
Totally.
mindset that you have to kind of have.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think that when it comes down to it, I completely agree that mindset is the root of every issue. Whether it's, oh, I have too busy of a schedule, oh, I, don't have the time to meal prep, oh, X, Y, and Z, knee issue or, being flat-footed, whatever the case you're saying, of course, to an extent, being able to overcome these things starts in the mind. Everything does. And I think that what you mentioned at the back half of what you were saying in terms of even though it may be harder for me due to X, Y, and Z circumstances, I'm going to utilize that and utilize those emotions to push even harder. And that literally is pretty much the pinnacle of masculinity to me, building up regardless of how we're born, which I think is definitely like such an important factor, is realizing that some people can choose to use that as a reason to stay the same, and others can choose to use that as reason to work 10 times harder than the rest. And that's the clear separation. And that's why I think it's really cool that we're kind of all on that wavelength. And, the clients
Mm.
getting to understand that as well is super, super cool. So, with that, kind of how I wanted to round out the podcast here in terms of becoming a fitness coach, from what you
Mm.
mentioned in terms of starting your journey, becoming an in-person coach, and then being able to coach other queer individuals. How has that, shaped your life as of recently? I know you mentioned you didn't have much of a community, being immersed in like a massive online one. What has that experience been like for you?
Great. Yeah, it's so fulfilling. It's so, so, so fulfilling. As I said, like before I just mainly PT'd in person, like I
Hmm.
wasn't a queer centered thing.
Hmm.
And it's just, yeah, so fulfilling because you see yourself in every single client, because
Yeah.
we've all been there and been, the person. that feels like the other in the
Yeah.
group and
Hmm.
feels and because fitness is so mindset, as I said, the main pillars, every single coach out there saying the same thing. If anything, it's oversaturated.
Yeah.
But it's with a coach, like I feel like you want someone that you can connect with and that
Hmm.
understands your struggle, and that's what helps you because you really feel like, okay, they're going to give you that push that you need.
Hmm.
And being able to be a part of Masculinity Made and meet so many people and their own journeys and really like hearing them out
Yeah.
and even like I was on a call with one of my clients and he was just saying about how much, you've inspired him and everything
Hmm.
like that, even before like he had joined up and stuff. And I was just like, wow, that's so nice to like feel like you've made an impact on people,
Yeah.
just by sharing your story and being that representation for them. And that's really
Yeah.
the beauty of it.
Agreed. Yeah, being able to be a mentor in a way to these people is so, so important. And I completely agree. The fitness coaching industry, especially in like the last year, has become so extremely oversaturated. You can go to absolutely anyone and get fitness, accountability, strength training, nutrition, yada, yada. The list goes on. And, people will often say, why do I need to go to a queer-based trainer, blah, blah, blah. You don't. That's the honest truth is you really do not. There is no
Mhm,
need to isolate and separate. What we're actually aiming to do is the opposite, is build community, give people that sense of understanding. And I
mhm.
think that the connection someone has with their coach and that relationship is, again, the driving force in results, in change, and in long-term mentorship as well. So I totally understand what you're saying there. I agree. It's made such a huge impact on my end as well, like from the coach's perspective, just to be able to connect with these like-minded individuals as well. Of course, the clients are coming to us for that reason, but for us, I love waking up every morning to check messages of people, talking
Mhm.
about taping, talking about their gym experience, how they got over their gym anxiety. It's like a super, super rewarding feeling as well. So I think that that's definitely made an impact on the coaches more than maybe what everyone else might see.
Definitely. And you see it from every great coach out there.
Yeah.
Like it's not the resume or whatever, it's the connection that this coach may have with the players, with
Mhm.
the athlete, and it's saying the right things and being able to make the changes when necessary. And I
Totally.
think only a coach that can relate to your struggle is going to be the best coach for you. And that's kind of the selling point as well, why you
Yeah.
wouldn't just go to any other coach or any other service
Mhm.
because we were tailored to you, like
Mhm.
we all
Yeah.
know it. Like that's why there's such a selling point with female this and female that and etc. Like it's there for a reason.
Yeah. Mhm.
We didn't all just make it up and like, why are you going to a female only thing? Why don't you go to a men's? It's like, well, because I'm going to feel more comfortable and supported, and that's going to get me better results.
Totally. It is all about
Build a community and
comfort
connect.
to do the uncomfortable. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that's definitely a huge thing as well. So, being able to learn about your story and where you're at now, it seems like you've moved mountains throughout this. So, I'm sure people are looking up to that and admiring that in a way. I know I definitely am, from the backseat here, but I'd love to kind of round it off with one final question for you here in terms of what advice you would give to someone just starting out their journey that is in similar shoes as you, not really having much community, not really knowing where to start, but having that motivation and drive to get things done. What advice would you give someone in that situation?
The biggest advice that I could personally give is just to think of it as a health journey and a self-care journey and
Mhm.
start small and treat yourself as if you're your own best friend.
Mhm.
That's been like the biggest model that I've applied in my life. That's helped me so much because anytime you have that like negative thought and the motivation dips and stuff, think like, what would you say to someone that was your best friend?
Yeah.
You're not going to be mean, you're not going to be
Mhm.
horrible, but you're going to say like, okay, come on, let's get it together. And you're going to kind of be your own coach to your
Oh
best
yeah,
friend. Because you
totally.
care about them, you love them, you want them to be better, you want them to feel better. And when you start seeing it as like enjoying the process rather
Mhm.
than being so results focused, and that's why you lose motivation easily because you're not seeing the results. But if it's not about the results in the first place, you're not going to lose that motivation because
Yeah.
you just want to enjoy the process and improve yourself because you care about yourself because you're your own best friend.
I love it. I love the concept of like being your own best friend or talking to yourself in a way. It's a great way to kind of ensure that you have these positive thought patterns going into things. And I think the more positive you are, whether that's with motivation or whether that's just through being your own best friend or both, the better off you're going to be in terms of getting things started on the right foot. And again, fitness is not a linear process. You'll take two steps forward, three steps back. And I think giving yourself that grace and being able to talk to yourself in that way is definitely A great piece of advice. So, Tay, I really appreciate you jumping on with us here today. I think that this has definitely been super insightful in terms of building up discipline, learning how to find community, be your own community, own best friend in a way. And it definitely was an absolute pleasure to kind of get to know your story as well. What I will say is if anyone wants to work directly with Taya in our program here at Masculinity Made, you can go ahead and click the link in the description and click Taya as who referred you, and we will pair you up with her one-on-one directly. But other than that, I'll drop all her social medias in the description as well to go drop her a follow. And thank you so much, Taya, for sharing and joining the podcast today. It was an absolute blast.
Thank you. Thank everyone for listening.
Awesome. Thank you guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.